Today, we look back in the dark history of human existence. The date that shaped our modern world. Not the dates in textbooks, not the speeches of politicians, not the medals pinned on uniforms, but the mud, the blood, the hunger, the silence after the gunfire. The World War II was not merely a war of nations. It was a war of sons who never returned, of mothers who waited at windows that would never open again, of children who grew up too quickly because childhood had been bombed out of existence. In September 1939, when Adolf Hitler invaded Poland, the world stepped into a storm. What followed was not glory. It was devastation across continents. The battlefronts imagined the Eastern Front, endless winter, snow-stained red. The clash between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union was not just strategic maneuvering, it was annihilation on an industrial scale. At battles like Battle of Stalingrad, soldiers froze where they stood. Frostbite claimed fingers before bullets could. Starvation hollowed faces until men resembled ghosts wearing uniforms. Young men, 18, 19, died in waves, not knowing why, not fully understanding geopolitics or ideology, only knowing fear. On the Western Front, after the landings at Normandy landings, the beaches were no longer beaches. They were graves. Bodies lay in the surf as ships continued to arrive. The ocean carried the wounded and the dead alike. And in the Pacific, the battles were relentless. The island campaigns, including Battle of Iwo Jima, turned tropical landscapes into infernos. Soldiers fought in caves, in jungles, in suffocating heat. The air itself smelled of smoke and death. Young men died like flies. The Sea of Graves war was not confined to land. Across the Atlantic, ships sank beneath dark waters. German U-boats hunted relentlessly. The Battle of the Atlantic became a graveyard for sailors who vanished without farewell. No final words, no funerals, just cold water and silence. Convoys carrying food were torpedoed. Supplies meant for civilians never arrived. Hunger became a weapon. In Britain, during the Blitz, bombs fell nightly. Streets that once echoed with laughter were reduced to rubble. Families slept in underground stations. Some never woke up. Dead bodies on the streets were covered with blankets when there were blankets to spare. Hunger and poverty. War consumes more than armies. Fields were destroyed. Infrastructure collapsed. Food lines stretched for blocks in cities across Europe and Asia. Hungry, sometimes wounded children. Malnutrition can be heard crying. Bread became more precious than gold. In besieged cities like Siege of Leningrad, civilians starved slowly. Winter temperatures dropped below freezing. People burned furniture to stay warm. Some wrote diary entries describing the sound of their own stomachs aching. Children died quietly in their mother's arms. What does a widow tell her son when his father will never return? How does a mother explain that the world has chosen violence over mercy? Orphans filled the streets. Some begged. Some stole. Some simply sat beside ruins where homes once stood. The atomic shadow. Then came a new horror. In August 1945, the world witnessed the consequences of atomic power when bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In seconds, cities became ash. Human shadows were burned into walls, skin peeled from bodies. Survivors wandered through smoking ruins, searching for family members who had been vaporized. Radiation sickness lingered long after the mushroom cloud faded. The atomic age began not with hope, but with screams. And humanity crossed a threshold from which it could never return, the cost beyond numbers. We often hear statistics, 70 million dead, millions wounded, entire cities destroyed, but numbers cannot cry. Numbers do not stand at gravesides. Numbers do not hold photographs of smiling sons who will forever remain young. War leaves behind widows dressed in black, clutching telegrams. It leaves fathers broken by the loss of their children. It leaves generations traumatized, not just physically but psychologically. What happens to a society when death becomes ordinary? When survival depends on hardening your heart? The war ended in 1945, but for many, it never truly ended. Nightmares persisted, limbs were missing, minds were shattered. Broken and shattered families had to rebuild not only homes, but meaning, lest we forget. We must remember that war is not an abstract concept debated in chambers of power. It is mud in a soldier's mouth. It is a widow's silent scream. It is a child staring at an empty plate. It is the consequence of ideology unrestrained by humanity. The lesson is not merely never again, because history shows how fragile that promise can be. The lesson is this: hatred escalates. Nationalism without empathy dehumanizes. Power without accountability destroys. Every war begins with words, rhetoric that divides, that labels others as enemies, that convinces ordinary people that violence is necessary. And every war ends with graves. If we forget the sadness, the hunger, the ships sinking, the young men dying like flies, we risk romanticizing what should never be romanticized. There was no glory in frozen trenches, no honor in starving children, no triumph in atomic shadows, only loss. So when we say, lest we forget, we are not honoring destruction. We are honoring the dead by choosing peace. We are remembering the orphans, the widows, the broken streets. Because remembrance is responsibility. If we truly remember, then we guard against the same descent into darkness. Lest we forget.